Welcome back. Today we're going to continue a little bit from the direction of yesterday. We're going to stay with construction and architecture. And today we're going to look at AI and how we can shorten the amount of time it takes to go through the process of building a new building. Right, so remember yesterday we were talking about creating an entire 3D model, a completely accurate down to the millimeter representation of measurements, materials, textures, cabling, everything inside, all the amount of data, everything going on, trees, buildings, things like that, right? So imagine that we now have it. We want to start a new project. We want to build a new building. So with this 3D data, with this 3D model, with this entire new thing, let's imagine it's like a hologram. It's like on your desk, right, with augmented reality, and you can view it from many angles. You can blow it up. You can walk into it. You could do all sorts of things. But so now we can like chuck away some buildings. Maybe part of our property we want to keep, part of our property we want to get rid of. So we can chuck away different buildings. We can outline the little area that we have for construction. And normally at this point, when you want to start a new construction, you get in touch with an architect. You hopefully put some plans together. You put together a vision of what you want the place to look like. But some people, not everybody does that, right? So people at this point get a project manager that kind of helps them make sure that all the pieces of the puzzle are organized. They deal with everybody, right? The contractors, they deal with the architect, they deal with the town planners, they deal with all the permits, the council, everything like that. And hopefully they also deal, if you don't have maybe a complete picture of what you want to do in your mind, they help you work through this vision. And then it takes a long time to extract what you want, to all the different features, all the things you want. You need to come up with, create like good ideas and great solutions to make sure that you can, achieve and you can still get to this goal, right? You can achieve it in the best way possible. And I guess a good project manager or a good architect or a good team is able to get all these ideas out in the beginning. Put them on the table, consider them all. There's some ideas that are wild, that might be very expensive, that in the long run, they might actually help you out with the goal much better. They might have a much better ROI, especially if you're running businesses. Certain things might be better investments, right? Put a bit of money into this and it pays off down the line. And this is something that maybe you didn't consider in the beginning, but a good architect or a good project manager will help consider all those decisions. But this process takes a long time, like to go backwards and forwards. Again, especially if you're dealing with 2D plans, until you understand, wrap your head around it, until they give you those 3D renderers that help you get a better sense of what the place looks like, the feeling, how things move around, and all those different simulations that they do on their end, until they finally get it back to you. This is like months and months of going backwards and forwards with the architect. And sometimes people get bogged down in this. What we want to do, what this idea is talking about, is using the concept of AI to generate tons and tons of designs, right? So imagine if I've got we're going back to having this 3D model. I've flicked away, the different buildings. I've cleared up my land. A lot of people who play like games and stuff probably know this. I'm not sure games off the top of my head, but I'm sure a lot of you have played like those kind of games where you like to build cities or things like that, right? You clear the land. So you could technically kind of do this with actual real world data, right? You're clearing up the land, you assign what you want there, and then into the system, right, into the AI or into the program, you can now start defining things. So, right, you define how big the building is, how many people you want it to fit, the different functions, the interior space, how many people should fit inside, how many people should fit outside. There's lots of different things that you need to hit for like different, you have different business objectives that you need to hit. So you can bring this all into the filter, and then what the AI does is it generates hundreds or thousands of different designs and spits out at you and says, this configuration, we can put this room next to that room, and okay, you need an elevator, you need disability, you need disabled spots, you need to have a certain amount of car spaces. So it can spit out so many different configurations that either work well with the current buildings that you have existing on the land. What if we arrange the car spaces like this? Let's put tandem car spaces. Let's put car spaces on the second floor. Let's put the entrance here. And all these things, as it spits out, it can also give you the reasoning of why it's spitting them out, right? It can show you, oh, we can fit in this amount of people. And it puts together, because it's dealing with a 3D world and it's already got all the information for how big the property is, you can imagine if you have almost, like, think of like, I was going to say like a Tinder type of thing, right? Where you're just like discarding, you're flicking away all the ones you I don't like that, I don't like that look, it doesn't have that, it compromises on this, blah, 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 blah. And you like cull it down to almost a couple more, just a couple of designs where now you can work with. Now at that point, when you're working with a couple of designs, you're at a point where now you can decide, let's get the architect involved. Or you can go down a different direction and say, this could be a complete like BIM software where this software, this program, this AI, this let's just call it base level software that I'm dealing with, not only has to consider all those things, but now it can deal with all the plumbing, it can deal with the heights, it's dealing with the material involved, it's dealing with the engineering, the structural engineering. All those different things can be in the program, and this is already happening in the architecture world. BIM is becoming massively, wildly popular. Nowadays, it's unheard of not to like really consider that in the beginning. But that BIM and these concepts of giving parametric design and all these, having a system that can spit out tons of designs completely is going to change how this process works. You're not going to sit down with an architect and think of like different ideas and go through it and then, oh, what if we do that? And then 2 months down the line, oh, we didn't consider this thing. This is coming from a completely different point of view, right? Parametric design or things like that can look at like, how do we make it natural? How do we, look at different structures? How do we get rid of some material? How can we optimize it to be the best possible? But the rest of it is considering features, it's considered people, it's considering the flow. All this coming together, we're coming to a point where if you want to build a building, if you want to build a house, the time that you actually engage the architect might actually happen a lot later, because the program, the software might be so user-friendly and able to generate so many different options and good options that you'll be able to play around with all this by yourself in the get-go, just by describing and working. It'll become so simple. It's like, think about like what websites used to be, and to get like a website, to get a custom website was so difficult, and you have to spend so much money and had to get people to code it from scratch. Now you have systems like Wix that can build you, they have the bare bones of what a website is, and they could either get you started with a template, or you can go to like a Wix ADI and you give it some sort of parameters, and it builds things out, and then as you add content to it, it can start moving around its design and its structure. And I was working with an AI website builder a couple of years ago that was using the same thing. It was like, you give us the content, don't worry about anything else, right? You're giving us the the wording, the copy, the media, all those different things. You give us that, and we'll generate the structure of the website. We'll generate how it looks and move it around. And it was a very interesting concept, and obviously it's got ways to go, but we're looking at something like that over here, that you give it all what it needs, right? You give it the functions, what you're looking at, all the different parameters, all the different filters, everything that you have in your brain of what you kind of want it to achieve. And it runs through all these different simulations and all these different scenarios, and spits out tons and tons of designs. And when you're coming from that point of view, where now you have tons of designs to think from, you can get rid of them, and at that point you can now move ahead, because you've thought about all the different concepts. You've considered everything. This system has considered all the different types of layouts of the rooms, of how they merge with each other, how they join together, where they sit, the flow of people, the car parking, the materials and the designs, and all these things you're going through. Imagine if you're sitting there and you're not like having 1 hour meeting with the architect and then like you hear from them 2 weeks later. Here you're sitting in front of a project and you're kind of like, oh, I like that design. Oh no, more inspiration from there. And through all this, you're kind of merging into the perfect building, into that perfect thing. And you're getting there with your like kind of symbiosis. You're merging there with the software. You're both in the journey, and you're reaching that point where you're culling away all the different designs, and you're whittling away at it until you get that perfect design that achieves everything that you want. with that, we'll end off, and I'll see you guys in the future.